School is in. But are you really ready to learn? Open your eyes to a new day in education with the Awakening Educator, a program specifically designed to explore a new, mindful way of educating our youth. Learn about social-emotional learning, new modalities of teaching, and the most relevant topics in education with your hosts, Susan Andrian and Megan Sweet. Susan and Megan will take you inside the issues by looking at them from different points of view, from policies and research to teaching models that are actually used in schools. There's never a dull moment in this classroom. You can catch the Awakening Educator every other Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern on Spreaker, Facebook Live, WDJY 99.1 FM, WTTA 101.2, Talk 10 FM, and many other platforms. You can also watch it on our app anytime from anywhere in the world at uimediaapp.com. Have any questions you'd like to ask? Maybe you have knowledge you'd like to share. Call 678-495-4345 and share your thoughts live on air. Grab a pen and paper and get ready to open your textbooks and minds to a new way of learning on the Awakening Educator.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Awakening Educator. This is Megan Sweet on location, or actually, I'm in the studio, and
I'm Susan Andrian. I'm on location in Los Angeles at the public library out front. As you can hear, there was a motorcycle going by, so that's the way it is. But I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Susan. As everybody knows, it's summer, and so during the summer, as working moms, we're traveling. So we haven't actually been in studio together in a couple of weeks now, or a couple of episodes. It's been 2 or 3.
Like 3 episodes. We
have a long time. So I miss you. I look forward to seeing you.
Last time I was in the studio and you were away, and now this time I'm away and you're in the studio. But
that's right. Yeah. And today's our guest today, Susan, as you know, and for everybody else, is Dr. Charles Cole, who's going to talk to us about how to use your personal narrative to kind of make sense of yourself, but also how to teach kids to understand their narratives and how that influences the way they show up in the world. He's the executive director and founder of an organization called Energy Convertors, and he'll talk to us a little bit more about what that program does, and also a little bit about his personal history and how it reflects on how he's doing his work today. So it's going to be a really great show, and we're excited to have him. Charles is joining us a bit late, as you know, Susan, but as for everybody else to know, he is a busy man, and so he is going to be joining us a few minutes into the show. And when that happens, you'll see me disappear for a second to go fetch him, and then we'll come back together. And during that time, Susan will hold it down, as they say.
Yep. And Megan, as you know, I'm going to have to leave a little bit early because as is with live television and radio and media, my daughter is in a performance and I can't miss the performance. So we're going to go right up to the last minute and head out to see her. So we're making it work.
Making it work like working moms do. And I love it. And congratulations.
And educators, right? I mean, this is kind of what it means to be an educator sometimes.
Like double threat.
Totally.
Well, we wanted to welcome our friends from 99.1 FM WDJY today.
And we want to say hello to our friends at MTTA 101.2 in Kentucky and Ohio.
Great. And we'll also welcome Metro Atlanteans at Talk 10 FM.
You can watch and listen to all of our shows live or download us at uimediaapp.com.
Great. Thank you so much for that. Charles was texting me. I'm already getting distracted by Charles. Modern technology. I can follow his Uber ride to see where he is.
That's
very
so
cute.
Cool.
As we mentioned last time, we wanted to dedicate some of our time for each show and really the themes of each show to all the people that are suffering on the southern border, the children that are in detention centers, the families and migrants without children that are being held in detention centers, And also to the guards and others that are there. There's a lot of suffering going all around in this situation, and we want to hold the space for that. We also want to just also raise up some of those voices, though, of what's happening in the detention centers. It's hard to tell what's going on. So we wanted to just kind of share back to you all some of the voices of people that are there. I'm seeing that Susan's getting distracted, so I'm going to read.
Well, there's a giant bus. Hopefully it's not, you can't control the environment when you're outside. So
no. Yeah, that's okay. So I'll read the first one, Susan. Maybe you can read a second of these accounts. These are first-person accounts of people who have been to the detention centers. And whatever your political background is, we at Awakening Educator just we don't stand for separating families and for treating people who've already gone through so much trauma in inhumane conditions once they come to the United States. So here are a few of those voices we wanted to bring forward. This is from a law professor who toured a children's detention facility in Texas. And this is what she says. What we saw are dirty children who are malnourished, who are being severely neglected. They're being kept in inhumane conditions. They are essentially being warehoused, as many as 300 children in a cell with almost no adult supervision.
This is a report on findings from a recent tour of Rio Grande Valley, Texas detention facility by the Office of Inspector General and of the Department of Homeland Security found dangerous overcrowding and prolonged detention of children and adults.
So this is from our own government agencies acknowledging that we're keeping children and adults past our agreed upon time limits, that the overcrowding is severe. We also have some statements from children who have been in the detention centers and are recounting what they've been experiencing. So this is one of them. There are children here with no one to take care of them, not even a big brother or sister. Some kids are only 2 or 3 years old and they have no one to take care of them. And this is from a boy aged 11.
And this is a quote. I started taking care of X, age 5, in the icebox after they separated her from her father. I did not know either of them before that. She was very upset. The workers did nothing to try and comfort her. I tried to comfort her, and she has been with me ever since. X sleeps on my mat with me on the concrete floor. We spend all day, every day in that room. There are no activities, only crying. This is from a girl age 15.
And finally, one last quote from a boy age 5. I was apprehended with my father. The immigration agent separated me from my father right away. I was very frightened and scared. I cried. I have not seen my father again. I have had a cold and cough for several days. I have not seen a doctor and I have not been given any medicine. Just before we got on air, I was telling Susan that my son, for the first time, is flying on an airplane and to be with a family member. And before that, I was away for work, which is why I joined remotely last time. I was away on the East Coast for work. And so I've been separated from my son a few times, which happens, especially as kids get older and if parents have work. And that's a painful, daunting thing. My son being on the airplane alone for 45 minutes was terrifying for him. And we had to spend a lot of time talking with him about it so he could be comfortable. And these are children that are fleeing violence and poverty in their homes and are being separated from their parents in an unfamiliar place, in a language that they do not know, in conditions that seem to be quite frightening and dangerous. And my heart goes out to all the children and families.
Yeah. And I can see, this is emotional for all of us. And as a mental health provider, I think it's really important that we recognize the long-term impact this is going to have on everybody who's involved, on all of us as a country, especially these children, while their brains are currently forming. And we're going to hear about brain development as we go on. But what we know is that these experiences are forever going to change these children's experience of the world and their understanding of what safety is. We are harming these children in irreparable ways, and it is crushing.
Absolutely crushing. Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that point forward, Susan, that Yeah, these are children, and there's been a lot of different pediatricians and psychologists coming forward saying that what's happening with the children in the detention centers is, as you said, it's going to cause long-term damage, both in how they learn, but also how they emotionally attach to and move through the world. Especially since some of these detention centers are separating babies who during their natural time when they're supposed to be connecting and bonding with another adult are being separated from their parent. We need to find another way. That's the bottom line there. So thank you for that, everybody.
And thank you, Megan, for bringing forward these really important points. We're going to transition. And as Megan said, we're going to do this every show until this is no longer an issue at the border. So we want to make sure that we don't forget and we continue to keep attention on this. But we're going to transition. And I know Megan wants to, it's summertime. And what are some of the things that we do in summertime?
Yeah, we do activities and professional development. We read books.
Yes, we read books.
Yeah, so I wanted to remind everybody that I have a book out there, The Awakening Educator's Guide to Using Your 3 Eyes. It's available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. And the book is really talks about ways to approach being an educator and creating change in our own personal lives and in our education settings in a really well-rounded and grounded way. And it really talks about that the change has to begin with us working with ourselves and connecting with ourselves first, not in a judgmental way, but in a compassionate and loving way. And as we develop a deeper relationship with ourselves, we're able to develop deeper and more meaningful relationships with our colleagues and students and to create real change in our educational setting. So if you're curious about it, I'd love for you to check it out. You can learn more about that on our website, which is www.your3eyes.com. That's the number 3, so YOUR number 3 EYES.com. And you can also learn there about you can catch up on all of our old episodes from the Awakening Educator. We have an Awakening Educator page there, and a link to our newsletter and a way to give us ideas for shows. Susan and I have plenty of ideas, but we love to hear from everyone else. And if you have, especially if you see a show topic coming up that you're curious about, or you feel like we're missing something, let us know. And if you know somebody who you think we should be talking to, even better. It will definitely help us to, we want to bring in a diverse set of voices and perspectives on this show.
Yeah, I think one of the things that is so powerful about your book is really, no matter where you are in the educational system, whether you're a classroom teacher, whether you're a principal, whether you're a central office support person, whether or not you're the superintendent, it provides a framework that is useful at all phases of all parts of the school, all parts of the system, because it really does have that reflection where you're doing your personal work, and then how are you applying it to the role that you're in right now? So I just want to really give a push for wherever you are in the educational system. I think this book can be really helpful and insightful to help you grow your practice and have a great impact on the students and families you're serving.
Oh, thanks, Susan. Yeah, on the website, you can also learn about how to start doing some of that personal work. I have a course called the Beliefs Lab, which is on a platform called Udemy. You can get the links to it from our website, though. And it's really just a quick 6-week course. And there's a discount code on the website that you can access to. So it's pretty cheap, like $15 or something, or maybe $20. It's a 6-week course that gives instruction on how to start to detect those beliefs that are kind of influencing us. It's one of those 3 eyes, and how to start working with them. So if we have beliefs that are undermining us, we can learn how to detect those and start to change those. And if we have beliefs that are supporting us to be successful, we can detect those too and help to make those even stronger. So we just want to invite you to go to our website, check it out, hang out. I also have a different podcast, the one actually that started before our Awakening Educator podcast. And that one talks a lot about the 3rd eye, which is intuition. So it gives a lot of instruction on ideas and ways to start accessing one's intuition. And we want to encourage you to check those out. There's also blog posts there, lots of free downloads and content. So there's a lot of things for you to check out. And we just look forward to engaging with you as much as we can. We'd love for you to join our newsletter.
And we're going to be adding some trainings so that'll be coming up in the future as well. So keep an eye out. And I think we're coming to our first commercial break already.
I think we are. We're coming to our first commercial break. Hopefully when we come back, we'll have Charles with us. I've been watching his Uber ride, so we'll see. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Beth Peters, Atlanta-based psychic, medium, animal communicator, and your host for the Psychic Soup. Mondays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on WDJY 99.1 FM. I bring in fascinating guests and touch on everyday topics, but with a psychic's twist. From high-profile psychics to psychic fanatics, I like to talk to people and learn how us psychics can help them in ways they've never dreamed of. Have any questions you'd like me to answer? Call 678-495-4345, and I'll be happy to take your call. You can also watch me on Facebook Live at United Intentions Foundation, where you can post your questions in the comment section. Find the Psychic Soup on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and many more platforms. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at United Intentions, and on Twitter at Higher Intention. So relax, take a deep breath, and dive into the Psychic Soup. A spoonful of psychics for soulful readings come true.
Hi, and welcome back to the Awakening Educator. This is Megan Sweet.
Hi, Megan.
Hi, Susan. I'm in the studio. Susan's on location if you're just joining us. And we'd also like to remind you that if you have any questions or you'd like to say hello live on the air while we're talking, or ask a question of our guests, you can call us at 678-495-4345.
And you can also connect with us online. You can follow us on social media, on Instagram, YouTube at United Intentions, Higher Intentions, on Twitter. And you can go to our personal, the Awakening Educator website, which Megan gave you the link earlier.
Charles is here. So
yay, Charles. Okay. So very excited to have Charles join us and talk about our personal narrative and really see how cultivating a personal narrative can really help kids think about their future. Amazing. Charles, so hi, Megan.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, Charles.
Susan's saying hi.
Hi, Susan.
Oh, yeah.
How you doing?
I can hear you, Charles, but he can't hear us yet. So he's getting settled.
Yeah,
I was just saying, I'm really excited to really think about how I've thought a lot about personal narrative, and really excited to hear about the ways in which Charles is applying personal narrative to working with young people and envisioning their future. I think that it's important for all of us to understand our personal narrative, teachers, young people, families. So excited to have you here.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I got caught up in Uber, but I'm happy to be here. So one, I think personal narrative is just really, really important in the sense of these things need to be grounded and rooted in something that's like real, right? So when we had these conversations around education or data or what's happening or whatever the case is, a lot of time it's easy to lose the actual faces and souls of people because they just get kind of reduced to numbers, right? So I think narrative kind of makes you understand that there's actual stories and people and lives behind these numbers. And because of that, like there should actually even be just a deeper sense of urgency than what we actually operate with.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Cole. It's my first time being able to call you Dr. Cole in person. So thank you, Charles, for coming and jumping right in with the first question.
No problem at all.
So Charles, maybe it'd be helpful, speaking of personal narrative, for you to tell us a little bit about yourself and what passion has brought you to doing this work now?
Cool. So you got to keep me on time now. I don't want to have too long of an answer. So 2 minutes for this answer.
All right, Susan, 2 minutes.
All right, 2 minutes. So basically, I grew up, I was born in Chicago, but grew up in between Chicago, Kentucky, and Oakland. So I moved here when I was 11. I went to about like 11 elementary schools. My parents, I was born in 83. So my parents struggled during the crack epidemic. Both of them were addicts, in and out of jail. And when I moved to California, I lived in 4 shelters, 2 in Oakland and 2 in San Francisco. And I went to a bunch of schools in Oakland. So that's that helped kind of build like who I was. And I've also been somebody that has utilized education and used education to change the status of my family. And the interesting thing is I didn't learn a lot in school. I didn't go to the best schools. What I was able to do, though, was to figure out how to make school my hustle, make school. It opened up doors for me that gave me a chance to compete for opportunities. And I was able to kind of do okay with some of those chances. So that's a little bit of my story, if I'm keeping it under 2 minutes.
You're being very humble. So he says he's taking advantage of his opportunities, but Charles has just gotten his doctoral degrry.
Yes. I joined your club.
Yeah, and you kept that, Charles, you kept it under a minute. So that was pretty impressive.
Oh.
We have more to say. Maybe you could talk to us a little bit about what your doctoral research has been as well.
Oh, absolutely. So what I wanted to look at was, again, I am somebody who was deeply impacted by the crack epidemic. And it is a moment in time that I will just not let everybody forget. It is, I think there's a lot that's coming back up now that's really hypocritical to what was happening during that time. And so my research was around looking at other men, not just me, but other Black men that grew up deeply impacted by the crack epidemic, that suffered deep traumas. And I'm not talking about we talk about trauma a lot now, and I think that it's become a little bit more socialized. So I'm not talking about like just the everyday trauma. Like the people that I had in my study dealt with debilitating, like hard-hitting traumas, like somebody was murdered. They watched their mother beat in front of them. They ended up homeless. They switched schools 3 times in 1 year. Their father got dragged off to jail in front of them, right? Like these like things that kind of stain on you and don't go away. And so I wanted to look at 2 things from those folks. One is how they navigated and survived all that to like obtain terminal or doctoral degrees. And 2, I wanted to know what were the residual impacts from that type of journey, right? So like, what are the long-lasting effects that even these men who now represent less than 3% of the world or whatnot in academic attainment, like what are the scars that what's the tax that they now have to pay that a lot of other people that have achieved the same things don't? So that's what my research was around. And I utilize, I like oral histories. I did that to honor, just African traditions and traditions of how we share stories from before, and we always did it through telling stories. So that was pretty much my research.
That's amazing. Did you come up with? I'm sorry, Susan. I'm hogging the time.
No, it's okay. I know. I'm actually. It's a really powerful story, and as someone who my entire career has been working in communities heavily impacted by substance abuse, crack epidemic. I started providing mental health services in 98, working in public housing. And so what I really appreciate about the way in which you're looking at this work is that narrative, because so many of how do you help folks create a new narrative for themselves while still attending to the trauma and not making their whole story tragic, but how do you build on resilience? It's a really complex set of ways of making sure that you're attending to the emotional needs of folks while you're still giving them a narrative that highlights their strength and their resilience. So yeah, it's powerful. And I want to get back to the data at some point, but I want to hear what Megan has to say now. But okay. I'm curious about, because I was new to data. So I'm really excited to hear you talk about data in this way that is story driven, because I think that's we're often either like data driven or story driven, and how do we bring those 2 together? So I find that exciting.
There's so much about Charles that's exciting, that's for sure.
I like the haircut.
Thanks, Charles. I know we haven't been together in a while.
I know, yeah.
So Charles doesn't see my hair. Yeah, I mean, I think I was be curious at what are some of those elements, or were there commonalities across all the men that you interviewed?
There There were. So basically what we did is I took all their stories and all their navigational, the things that they did to navigate and all their residual impacts, and so that they all could have their own shine and their own story. But I put all of those together and kind of identified a few things that were clear across the board. So one thing that was clear across the board is that all of their parents, like all of their mothers, actually, not their parents, but their mothers, they were really, really strong women, and they advocated for education in front of them. So like if they had a fight with the school about their kids' academics, they did it in front of the child. Like it did this thing where it imprinted the importance of education, academic attainment on their kids. So that was one thing. The other thing is their parents were not afraid to switch schools. So they made like active decisions around, I want my child to go to this school for this reason. The interesting thing about that was, in every case, the next school wasn't necessarily better, but that actually didn't matter. It was the building up of agency around taking control of your own academics, which actually was really strong. The other thing that really kind of stood out, I'm trying to think and look back on my notes. I might have to pull out notes while we're having this kind of conversation, because I was just writing on this. But I need to like look at it because I don't want to mess anything up. But that was one of the big things. The other thing was they all were able to surround themselves with some type of success. So what that meant is that the guy that ended up being a lawyer, very early on, his mother used to have dinners with like this lawyer guy, and he would be in their home and kind of see what that was like, or whatever the case is. It was basically the more stuff that they were exposed to, the better chance they had of actually attaining. It's hot in here. You gotta. It is hot. I'll get that fan better. I know. I know they don't want the backup.
I'm curious, noise. Charles. I'm curious, Charles, because I don't know if you're familiar with Bruce Perry's work, but I've been studying a lot of Bruce Perry's work, and I know you're probably familiar with the ACEs study, but one of the things that in his research that he found is that the ACEs, so the more adverse childhood experiences that you've had, the more likely you are to have heart disease and cancer and all of these health risks. But what he found is that if you correlate that with relational wealth, like the more you could have adverse childhood experiences, but if you have lots of healthy relationships in your life, that it actually counteracts the trauma. And I was wondering if you saw that in your research as well.
I mean, I saw that in some ways. I think it's a bit more complicated. I think that basically the big thing that we took away from our work is that one, for the most part, everybody is able to attain, to perform academically, right? Like everybody is able to learn. Two, we learned that people are really, 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 really resilient, but that doesn't mean that they should have to always be resilient, right? So like, if you think of resiliency as a rubber band, right? Like you hold a rubber band, it can stretch, but you got to let it go so it can go back to its shape for a little bit. But if you keep tension points on a rubber band and just keep pulling and pulling and pulling, like eventually
they froze. I think we lost. Did we lose Megan and Charles? So hopefully they'll be back.
We're here, Susan. Susan, you froze. We're okay. But yeah, so you're saying a tension point with the rubber band that. Yeah. So I'm saying like, at some point you gotta like let go of that tension or whatnot. And so, what we saw with these young folks is that, they didn't have that. We never had those opportunities to let go and let that tension kind of come back. So if I've been holding this rubber band for 30 years and it didn't snap, but even when I let it go, it's still, it's not going back to its original form. No, right? So you're forever changed. And that was something that we learned. It's like these folks are gonna like forever be changed. So I understand that from an intimate standpoint. Yeah, that you can't return to where you were. It makes me think about in a moment we're going to go on break, but it makes me think about just the power of people that can help you or can watch out for you. I know you started Energy Convertors, which in some part it's kind of actually a hybrid of what we've been talking about, which is one is learning how to detect and hold your own personal narrative and make some meaning out of it, but also then coupled with mentors and others that are there to give children some guidance and support. So in a moment, we'll go on break. We're not going quite yet. And we've lost Susan in the short term. So hopefully Susan will rejoin us as well. But when we come back from break, I would love to talk with you a little bit more about how Energy Converters came about, how you're making meaning of it and the impact you've seen so far. So we'll be back in a
Looking
moment.
forward to it.
Live every day with purpose with the Seeds of Intention Daily Planner.
A goal is just a dream until you write it down. Now, the awesome thing about writing things down is because in a year's time, you can see all of the specific things that are actually in your life right now. You can really chronicle the progression of the relationship and how you got from one goal to the next to the next.
To learn more, go to unitedintentions.org and click on Shop and make the commitment today to make the authentic change. Do you want to learn how you can stop sabotaging yourself? I'm here with Dr. Vern Morgan, and I think he's about to tell you just that.
There's great new technology which will allow you to change the old negative programming into very positive strategies. And we do that by using and delivering repetitively these strategies, bypassing the conscious mind and influencing the subconscious mind.
And to learn more, go to unitedintentions.org and click on Shop and make the authentic change today. Do you want to learn how you can stop sabotaging yourself? I'm here with Dr. Vern Morgan, and I think he's about to tell you just that.
There's great new technology which will allow you to change the old negative programming into very positive strategies. And we do that by using and delivering repetitively these strategies, bypassing the conscious mind and influencing the subconscious mind.
And to learn more, go to unitedintentions.org and click on Shop and make the authentic change today. Do you want to learn how you can stop sabotaging yourself? I'm here with Dr. Vern Morgan, and I think he's about to tell you just that.
There's great new technology which will allow you to change the old negative programming into very positive strategies. And we do that by using and delivering repetitively these strategies, bypassing the conscious mind and influencing the subconscious mind.
And to learn more, go to unitedintentions.org and click on Shop and make the authentic change today.
Best acoustics.
Welcome back to the Awakening Educator. This is Megan Sweet, and I'm here with Dr. Charles Cole and the lovely.
Hi, this is Susan. I'm on location in Los Angeles at the Public Library in Hollywood. So having fun.
In the front of the Public Library in Hollywood.
Yep.
So we wanted to remind you all that you can buy our Conscious Journal, plan your day intentionally with the Seeds of Intention Daily Conscious Planner. You can visit www.unitedintentions.org to learn more. And tomorrow is the big event, the big Awaken Atlanta celebration party, and it is sold out. But don't worry, there's still room for the overflow section at the Gate City Brewing Company in Roswell, Georgia. So if you're in the Metro Atlanta area, make sure you swing by. They have awards that they're giving away, swag bags, and much more. So welcome back, Charles and Susan. Charles was going to give us his key findings from his dissertation, because I think that's a really important work for us to call out. And when we write dissertations, we need to get it out there.
Absolutely.
Whatever.
Absolutely. So this was just for one part of it. This was around the navigation skills that were current across all three. So one, like I said, they sought out quality education. Their parents did. And even though they probably didn't have a ton of quality options per se, the actual act of seeking out the best education for your kid in front of your kid is actually really impactful. The second thing was all of them had really strong self-identities, which meant that they grew up in wherever they grew up at, but they were always an individual. So outside things of maybe what's going on in the environment didn't knock them off of what I call their square, but also adults didn't knock them off their squares, right? Like they had, like in some of these cases, they had really bad teachers or people that said really negative things to them. Adults in the school building that didn't knock them off. And then the final thing was what I mentioned earlier, was a proximity to success. So it just was being constantly exposed to new things, being able to try new things, and being able to see other people that have done things. So, I mean, when you are in proximity to those things, you get access to ways to navigate that. So there's another side to these answers, but this is what I pulled up. So we can get back into the flow of your show.
Well, so was it worth it to do the dissertation? Now that you are done,
yeah,
you still love it and you're glad.
Yeah, I think it was. So you got to understand with mine. So I did oral histories, but so the pseudonyms that I had to choose, and for the record, my subjects did not want pseudonyms. They wanted their actual names in, but we used pseudonyms because that's just how you do it. But these are 3 Black men that now have, one is a lawyer, one is a PhD, one is an EDD. But the 3 names that I chose for the pseudonyms were real people from my neighborhood that are dead. And one is my cousin, who's actually in jail for most of his life. So 2 of them are dead and one is in jail. And the reason why I use those 3 names with those 3 people is because they're about 90% the same. They're for all intents and purposes, we grew up in the same type of places, the same type of communities, went to the same type of schools. But these small little variances, there's a road that leads to jail and death. And there's another one that leads to like the heights of academia or the professional space. And it's in these small gaps. So I'm glad that I did it because, one, you now have to include my friends, Donald, DeMarcus, and Antoine. You know, they are now part of this education and academic lexicon when we're talking about like black boys, right? And you know, they didn't die in vain, or they're not in jail in vain. And you know, they start out as cute, like innocent kids, the way that we all do. But there are really dire consequences for some of us when things don't go well. So I'm really, really happy that I got a chance to do the dissertation, and I got to sign over a copy to Donald's daughter, who's now 9. We lost her father, it's been about maybe 8 years now, 7 years or whatnot, right? And so, you know, for her to see her father's name in that way, and you know, I talk about him in it, I think it's just going to mean a lot to their family. So if for nothing else, that moment alone was worth all that time and money.
That has me without words, which, as you know, for me is rare. I appreciate that. It gave me shivers, the idea of memorializing and honoring people in that way and capturing them. And juxtaposing their experience to one of the people that were able to make it through. And unfortunately, are often seen as the lucky ones because it is so hard. And we are not setting people up for success, especially young Black men in this country. We're making it way too hard to be successful.
And those 3 that are really successful are struggling too. Like they are dealing with like that trauma. So I came up with a theory that I'm still working out, but in a dissertation that made it is the Black Achievement Trauma Tax is what we named it. And you do all this and you are super, you know, disciplined, and you get to this place. And then now your body and your mind wants to heal itself, now depression is hitting you, right? Like you did everything you're supposed to do, and you came through all this just to be successful, just to now have to be like depressed or having to deal with those things from your childhood. I mean, it's it was a happy story, but there's some real life consequences. Nobody rode off into the sunset.
I think that's so powerful and important to recognize that we do often do that. Oh, they're the successful one. They made it out, but they still carry that pain and trauma. And recognizing that piece of it, I think, is often missed. So I really appreciate you bringing it forward because
no problem.
Yeah, it makes me think about not connected but connected. Which my father survived extreme abuse as a child, and grandfather who abandoned the whole family and lots of violence before he left. And he was one of 6, and only a couple of them really made it. And a couple of them really, really didn't make it of the 6 in that family. And my father, his whole life, definitely had this survivor's guilt or this trauma that of even just making it was hard. Knowing all the people that, and especially his immediate family, that fell down, you know, brothers that died young, who also then struggling with alcoholism their whole lives. So his survival also always, I just watched him carrying that deep guilt and that deep pain of his watching his siblings his whole life, like, almost feeling like it's not fair.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's quite what you were getting at there, but it reminded me that, even if you survive something like that, it's not like you wipe your hands of it and you keep going.
Yeah. I mean, listen, man, it's for all intents and purposes, life is really good for those three young men. If our job is to kind of look at the impact that we're having as educators, the impact that our community is having on us, all of this stuff, the education wars or wherever side you fall on in the ed reform stuff or whatever the case is, like, there are real people at the bottom of these things, right? And so, with some real consequences. So, I mean, I'm glad I got to do it. I'm still, this well. The dissertation is just kind of step one. It's the intro really to like that world of research. And I'm just going to keep diving into it and keep lifting up those stories and turn it into something that speaks to the community. I did not want to write to academics. I wanted to write to Black moms because those are the people that wake up crying and have to kind of deal with these losses. And so what I did was every time I got a chapter approved, I took it to a group of Black moms, and whatever they didn't understand, a word that they didn't get, if I couldn't make it to where they could understand it, then we changed it, right? Because none of this is any good if we only talking to each other. If my mother couldn't have picked that up in the state that she was in and actually found some value in it, then it's just scholarship for the sake of scholarship, right? So I just think that we just all do really important work, and I'm glad that you all have your podcast, and I hope that the folks that's listening are really understanding the type of responsibility and privilege that they have to like really be access to young people in their lives. Like, it makes a difference to people like me. I would be in something very, very different, so.
Well, I keep jumping in because Susan's not with me, and I'm sorry, Susan. My last thing, I'll let you jump in, but I just want to underscore this decision to make your dissertation accessible. And I want to name, because I know what that looks like on the other side, that there's a lot of pressure now to have it be accessible, to have educational language, and to have it be something that people have these ideas in their mind about what dissertations are supposed to look like. And I just really, again, you give me shivers, Charles. Knock it out.
It's all, listen. Cut it out. And Susan, I apologize because I know my answer is wrong. No. It's a reason for that stuff, but I don't want to.
I'm really grateful for your long answers. You're here because you're here because we want to hear what you have to say. I do want to hear, though. I do want to make sure that we hear what for those of us working in the field, working in the community, still connected every day. What is it? How do we use personal narrative? How do we bring this into to make it living in schools, in classrooms, or in mental health, or in programs that are supposed to help young people recognize the possibility, the options, the hope, that for their story to be what the story of these successful men were? How do we bring that in?
So, yeah, I mean, there's a whole section that's just to educators around what you just asked. But I mean, I would say that, one, the first thing is to really be good at what you do, right? Like, so the best thing that a doctor could do if you bleed in, right, is like, I don't need that doctor crying and empathizing with me at the moment. I need them to be a doctor and fix what they need to fix. And I think with educators, right, like, it's social, emotional, and holding a high academic standard. It's not one or the other. And so I see a lot of places where a lot of Black folks are getting coddled, or like brown kids are getting coddled, but they're not learning the content, right? So you have to do a mix of both. And I think that the narrative just kind of lets you know what's at stake. Because what will happen is, and this is just human nature, is that we want to feel good. So it feels good when a child accepts us and is like, I feel like I'm part of it. And like, thank you, Miss Dr. Sweet, you gave me a break today, or whatever the case is. And that makes you feel good in the moment, but that's not what the job is. The job is to prepare somebody to be able to have the academic education that they need, so they can take care of themselves, because you're not going to be with them all the time. And so I think that the stories just kind of let you know that there are real lives at stake. Nobody expects you to be a magician. I started my career as a social worker is how I came into this. So, I was able to, that gave me a different perspective, because as a teacher, it's their sister jobs, right? Like, you learn a lot about a little bit as a teacher, and you learn about pedagogy and how to deliver it. As a social worker, you learn the opposite. You learn a little bit about a lot of things. And the first thing you learn is that you don't have any control. So if I know I don't have any control over the chaos that goes on in any one person's life, how do I wrap around like this person around in services well enough that they have everything they need and they know how to take care of themselves when I'm not there. So
that's wonderful, Charles. When we come back from break, I'd love to hear a little bit more about the work that you did in Oakland, which is how we met, but
Absolutely.
also you got a lot, in addition to this dissertation that you've done, you got a lot of other work. And we want to say goodbye to Susan.
Bye, Susan.
Oh, she's already gone, but we love you, Susan. Talk to you soon. Susan will be with us for the last part of the show.
Does your health really matter? Join Atlanta-based chiropractor and naturopath, Dr. Nelson Bulmash, as he takes a fresh look at today's most interesting health topics with functional medicine's leading doctors and experts. Learn how to feed your mind, exercise your body, and nurture your spirit in the way nature intended. Catch him live every other Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on WDJY 99.1 FM. On Facebook Live at United Intentions and on the official United Intentions Spreaker channel. Consider your appointment with Dr. Bulmash booked because your health matters.
This is Tim.
And Maria from UI Media Network.
We both know what it's like to own your own business and needing to grow.
Building brand awareness, maximizing your visibility in the community, and reaching new customers is essential in keeping the doors open.
So in the spirit of 2019, we want to offer you a very special price at 50% off for commercial of your own.
So please call now and get on the calendar to get your commercial going for the new year.
So call UI Media Network at 678-495-4345. That's 678-495-4345.
Welcome back to the Awakening Educator. This is Megan Sweet. Susan had to leave us early, as we said. She's going to watch her daughter in a play in Southern California. So she's off being a proud mom. And I'm so into talking to Charles that we lost track of time. Welcome back. We want to remind everybody to tune in on Monday to the Good Intentions Show when conscious host Tim Ray will be interviewing international journalist, author, and educator Alex Newman. So please join us for that. Charles, welcome back. When we went to break, we were saying that it'd be great to hear a little bit more about, you said you began as a social worker, and I encountered you when we were doing some school transformation work. And that's definitely where I saw you and your understanding of your background and of who you are and how you move through the world show up and how transformative that was for the communities that we worked with. So I wonder if you can give us a little bit more about your kind of professional trajectory and how you got to doing Energy Converters.
Yeah, so so quickly on the educational side of things, started my career as a social worker, did that for about 5 years, then transitioned and working in the youth organization, youth development org space, did that for a while and ran offices in Oakland and San Francisco. From there, I went on to support teachers and help hire and find local teachers from Oakland at Teach for America. I was a director there for 2.5 years. And then I left there and I would eventually join OUSD where we met. And the work that you're talking about, which was actually, I think, some of the most important work that I've ever done. We did this work in West Oakland, this transformational work. And the significance of that is it was at the school that I went to. I went to Lafayette Elementary School, and to be able, one, just to walk through those hallways and kind of see that they looked exactly the same and the outcomes for kids were exactly the same, and just how the community wraps around that space. It's just a lot of different feelings and vibes that come up. Like, you know, Huey Newton went to that school from the Black Panthers. It's a bunch of folks, right? And Huey Newton's seminal book, it starts off like before chapter 1, like it starts off and says basically that the Oakland schools were terrible. And it just talks about the impetus when they were creating the Panthers and how they wanted to protect their neighborhood. So, during that work, though, we looked at a lot of data. We looked at kids that could read. And it was just, the bare minimum that we're supposed to provide in education, and it wasn't happening. And our job was to go in and work with these folks. But more so, what I think was most important was bringing parents and community into the fold and kind of saying, look, like, this is what's happening. This is what you deserve. Like, you deserve way better. Let me show you where this is possible. But this is what's actually happening. And like, you should be upset. You should be very mad at us, and you should be mad at a lot of people. And that was some of the most important work that I did. And I learned a lot. And that's where we became really good friends.
That's right. Yeah, I think it was, I've had a long career now at this point. My gray hair will attest to it. But working with you is one of the biggest pleasures I've had in my career because it was real. And I think that's what sometimes gets lost. And you aren't anything but real all the time, which helps, I think, to bring that out in other people. But I think your presence, and at least our heartfelt attempt to be as transparent and genuine as possible, allowed me to have a new perspective and access in that community that I didn't have before either. And a new just appreciation of the deep wealth in that community, and the incredible service and connection to schools and the community that exist in schools, that even though I'd spent years in schools, I didn't see or appreciate the same way until I worked with you and we did that work together in West Oakland. So it was really deepening for me on a lot of levels, and a real honor.
Well, I appreciate that. That means a lot. That means a whole lot. I mean, I think we were both learning a lot at that. I mean, I think we were good at our jobs, and you just are constantly learning. I learned a lot there. I think that, sometimes the simplest questions are the best questions. And I think that we asked very simple questions and it will sometimes throw people off, because in those spaces, you just, listen, man, for everybody that's listening, if you work in a school district, it's like the Titanic. It's like it trying to move something there. Like, if you just move an inch, like, it takes mountains to kind of do. And so, I think what we brought was a sense of urgency. And, sometimes you just got to break a protocol and like do things differently, because you're going to keep getting the same stuff. So, and we had to do that work fearlessly, and it was hard. And, but I think that going through something tough with people is what draws you together. And I think that's why we are bonded the way that we have. I mean, we had some battles together, and we got to see the metal that each person brought, and you just appreciate that.
Yeah, that's true. I appreciate you saying that. And I want to hear about Energy Converters, but I'll say that the biggest thing I learned from our work together was just the power of transparency and of just telling the truth.
Right.
It's like a lot of people were wondering what we were up to and how we were getting the results we were getting, and really, I think we just kept being honest and we kept being human. And that's really that was the magic formula that I think people didn't really quite believe.
It's crazy.
Just being honest and being human.
It's crazy.
And kind of just really connecting with people as people.
Right.
Which kind of, and then you left me and went to do Energy Converters. So,
but then you left. So
I know, well, because I'm not there anymore. So what's up with that?
That you just
wasn't worth it anymore.
You said she just blamed me for her career move.
That's right.
I love having that much responsibility. Well, that's so funny. Energy Converters is an organization that I started, and basically I focus on the end users in education. People think I only work with young people. That's not true. The end users, which happen to be students, their families, and I would say their community. And I work on that to do two things, right? One is to, have the one thing that we want to do is to make sure young people, like, we're improving education for young people and in these communities. But the other thing is that how are kids showing up to school on Monday? Like, what, like, we all got to we all want to get rid of poverty. We all want to get rid of racism, but that ain't going away tomorrow. Like, so what is it? What are you telling a kid that has to go into that world and deal with that in a school that's not operating at its highest capacity? How are they prepared to do it? And how are their families prepared to do it? And how can they still get the most out of that experience? So that's what we do at Energy Converters. We use stories. They learn how to do research, and they do their own podcast and presentations and all this stuff. But they fulfill like the community's like need for that. So that's what Energy Converters is.
That's cool. And you're in your third year of that coming up?
Yes,
right?
I'm coming up on the third year. Wow, yeah. This is going into year 3. So
that's great. And you also have another podcast that you do called 8 Black Hands. And I was wondering what that's about.
Yeah, I actually have a few podcasts. But
tell us about all your podcasts.
There's so there's one podcast that I've had that's been going for a while. That's more of a personal one, but I just was not seeing podcasts, and y'all's is still really young, so y'all wasn't there. But I wasn't seeing podcasts around education that talked to me. I wasn't seeing, I didn't hear, it wasn't Black folks that wasn't in the union, that wasn't like, or super conservative or super whatever. Like, I just didn't hear education podcasts that talked to me directly the way that we did our work in West Oakland. And so I created with some friends of mine that live in different parts of the country. So 8 Black Hands is 4 Black men. One of us is in New York, one in Minnesota, one is in Philly, and I'm in Oakland. And each week we just talk about the issues in education. We bring data, we bring our lived experiences, and we are just unapologetically ourselves and Black, and just, we don't sweeten up the conversation to make it more digestible. And it's done really well. We've gotten booked we just did a live show in Vegas. We did a live show in Oakland, and we'll be flying out to Pittsburgh in a few weeks to do a live show there with a bunch of educators in the audience. So
that's exciting.
Yeah. So there's that. There's another one that I produced called SOBIO Rants, and that's State of Black Education Oakland Rants. And basically what that is it's a space for educators or leaders in Oakland that impact Black lives to just have a space where they can just rant about whatever they want to rant about. So, because sometimes you just need to have a good rant.
You just need it out.
So it's like, if we invited you, I don't have a topic for you. I'm just like, what do you want to rant about? You can rant about the work that you did in education, or you can rant about Game of Thrones. It doesn't matter to us. We just feel like if you're doing great work and impacting Oakland folks' lives, that you should just have an uninterrupted space where you can just talk about whatever you need to talk about. So SOBIO Rants is actually doing really, really well. Kenneth Scott was the last person that we interviewed. He did amazing. Jamoke Hindenhaj did an amazing job. I mean, these people just haven't had an opportunity to just air it out. With I don't censor them, they say whatever they want, and we have fun there. And then we have a few other educational podcasts that are coming forward. I think that these things should apply on the brown side of things. I want to hear what women working in education kind of think, and community folks. So all of that stuff.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. We keep thinking we're getting notes from the producers, but I don't think we are. Okay, 2 minutes. Thank you. I saw things flying around. Charles and I are both distracted by that.
I just heard say time out, and I was like, all right, we're done.
We got to stop.
Sorry, I'm breaking the fourth wall. My bad.
Yeah, I know, I am too. I think that's exciting. I love the rants and the 8 Black Hands. It's an exciting space, and I think it's really important for us. Lots of research backs us up, as you know,
right.
But we need to have more diverse voices and perspectives in
Absolutely.
Education in particular, and to understand how education is, how we need to tailor it and change it to address the needs of the students that are there, and have people who actually look like our children thinking about and creating the education systems that are supporting our children. So I'm super excited about that. Charles, it's been such a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, no problem.
I'm so grateful. I'm going to do a couple little wrap-up things. It just makes me miss you, though. So can we spend more time together?
Absolutely.
I try and stalk you whenever I can, but now it's going to get real.
It's all good. You are not far. My office is not far from here. I will come see you whenever.
Oh, good. I love that. I just want to tell everybody that this is our last show on the United Media Network. Starting in August, we'll be moving over to the Contact Talk Radio Network, which is found at ctrnetwork.com/showtimes. And if you do that, you'll find both the Awakening Educator and the Your 3 Eyes podcast. We want to thank everybody at UI Media Network for your support and care and ushering us through these first few shows. And thank you so much for having us here, and we look forward to seeing you all in August on the CTR network. Bye.
Class is dismissed. Wasn't that fun? Susan and Megan are always happy to greet you on the next episode of The Awakening Educator, every other Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Watch all our shows anytime from anywhere in the world at uimediaapp.com. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Spreaker at United Intentions to be up to date with the show. Have any questions you'd like to ask? Maybe you have knowledge you'd like to share. Email us at contact@unitedintentions.org and we will read your comments live on air. Education is the foundation for a brighter future. Open your eyes to the Awakening Educator, only on the UI Media Network. The United Intentions Foundation and its associates take no responsibility for the opinions and statements made by the talk show.